I am weary. I am weary, people. I am weary of the lockdown zealots. Anyone who dares to question the current situation or criticize their darling president, whom they did not vote for, by the way, is immediately thrown with the blanket insult of conspiracy theorist. Ish, this word. This word is very similar to words these same people like to use whenever they're trying to dismiss a narrative, challenging their media-fed narrative. You'll notice words like Nazi, boomer, racist, bigot. I must give it to them. It is a clever strategy because the powers that be need not lift a finger to enforce these new draconian laws because they already have their authority-loving herd doing it for them. Gestapo tunnies, like my husband liked to call them. Gestapo civilians, and they sit in their homes. They're still euphoric from their Stockholm Syndrome-induced comas, and they peer out their windows and they phone their apparatchiks to come and arrest anyone who refuses to take the drug with them because they've been injecting this drug, you see, from their newspapers, their social media networks, their radios, their television, their series, and they kind of get off on this whole process. Every phone call report is a hit, and they get off virtue signaling and publicly proclaiming their love for their captor. What I've noticed is they all use the same rhetoric when trying to strike down their opponent. They all say, but flatten the curve, and what about the old people? Don't you care about your Oma and your Opa? And but just a while back, these same people called these old people boomers and blamed them for everything from Brexit to climate change. It's like they are on auto repeat with phrases like, why don't you try and spread some positivity, and why are you so negative, for the needle still fresh in their arm. Ooh, so I am weary, baby. I'm weary but I am relieved in a sense because finally my tribe is emerging. People who believe in family, people who want to rule themselves, people who want to plant their own food, raise and educate their own children, sweep their own floors, clean their own houses, people who are sick and tired of the notion that health comes from a syringe. We want to take back the responsibility of our health into our own hands, and we're moving back to love. And no, I'm not talking about the LUV that you find in the branding of sex shops, or the love that you use with phrases like, oh my God, I love. No, and also not the love that you write on posters next to words like me, we, will, and I. I'm talking about a tribe of women who serve their men and children, men who love and respect their wives, sober children growing up without televisions or pharmaceuticals or selfie-induced smiles. People who are seeking the rhythm of nature, a God who made the trees, the mountain, the tear, the smile, the dandelion, I'm starting to sound like Pocahontas. But that is what I'm longing for, and those are the people I'm seeing emerging from this whole situation. At this moment, I feel like I'm at a fork in the road because I feel like I'm leaving a lot of people behind. People I've laughed with and knew once, and it's kind of like saying goodbye to an addict. At first you try and motivate this addict, and you take them for walks, feed them good healthy food, make suggestions here and there, and then they just choose for the misery each time. And just when you think this person is getting back onto the straight, they go through some emotional time and then the relapse happens. And I feel that currently we are in a situation globally where we can't afford the time or the resources to spend on these people who are still trying to figure out on which foot to stand, then left, then right, then center, then off center, then back to left. I have to look at people who are sharing my immediate views on life, love, and freedom. It's like when you go on a trek through the desert, you really have to choose your team carefully. They need to be people who know how to ration, people who know that pace and rhythm are of utter importance, because if you travel with a bunch of people who they keep longing back to that which they know they had to leave, they left an unsustainable, unhealthy rhythm that was only good enough for short sprints from the one fix to the other. So if you're traveling with these people, you're going to fall behind and you're going to be forced to turn back. To give you an example of who I'm leaving behind is, I'm leaving behind those who, when we were studying at university, liked to signal the virtue of staying chaste before marriage, but who are now gladly accepting the March 25 government gazetted regulation that you may not refuse consent to state-sanctioned strangers entering your body. Strangers who can put whatever they want into your bloodstream with their needles. So actually, now that you've found your husband at university and you lost your virginity and you have your white picket fence, you now under the influence of your Stockholm Syndrome induced trip, you want to tell me to comply with a regulation surrounding a pandemic that I am not getting clear answers about. What do you call it when somebody inserts something into your body without your consent? No. I'd like you to get out your posters now and go walk that brave mile for My Body, My Choice. Instead, I'm seeing a lot of My Body, My Choice activists urging people to comply with this brutally invasive regulation. Can I have some consistency, please? Then I'm also leaving behind people who chose a lying man. Lie! Staying with that man who cheated on them, body shamed them over and over again, who have since pranced around with their own men are trash posters, by the way. These same people who chose their men and then start hating on men also bought into the whole narrative of the old boomer who started climate change and Brexit. Not who started it, but who is to blame for climate change and Brexit. These same people are now stuck in a house during lockdown with this verbally abusive husband, partner. So I saw them posting something the other day about, I'm so glad I chose not to have children in this time of lockdown because those crotch goblins are just driving married couples insane. Okay. So I would also judge the union between two people and the beautiful joy of co-creating a new life if I was stuck with a partner like that. I don't want his children. And so you're attacking the family. And by doing that, you're only cutting the ties to those who would and could support you financially, physically, emotionally, once your relationship disintegrates. Because let's face it, they all come running back to the family or to other married couples who have built the sustainable infrastructure to care for those dependents. That is why these unions are so important, because we support those who cannot stand: children, grandparents, and friends. My husband and I tried to advise and support friends like these in the past. Instead, they excommunicated me. They exorcised me, and they called me a priest. They called me oppressed, and it's like when you choose the lie, even only once, the rest of your decisions are tainted with that lie, because you cannot take a stand. It would require you to take responsibility for yourself and for your own decision. So you choose the lie and you make all the rest of your decisions based on this failure, and you start adopting the victimhood narrative, and you let go of your self-respect. And when you lose your self-respect, you can sometimes start seeing things that are not there, because you choose to see things that way, because the reality of it, that you are the captain of your own ship, is just too much to bear. So you start seeing things. You start seeing an abusive partner as a good choice, a thief as a savior, a captor as a captain, and a friend as an enemy. Another type I'm leaving behind is the kind of man who displays all the traits of a male feminist. He speaks out against men who oppress women and hold them to unobtainable standards. But when faced with a woman who would like to express the good old values of the traditional wife, to spread the good news about good men and who wants to have children, he'll smirk and dismiss her as primitive. Because in fact, He is a closet misogynist and cannot bear any woman who thinks outside the box that the mainstream media wants to place them into. The box that he wants to place them into, actually. The victim box. So, at this moment, he may perhaps find himself stuck in a relationship with a woman who tells him exactly what to do, what to think, and how to interact with other people. He may have to pep talk his friend into what subjects are off limits when engaging in conversation with her. And he too is now in lockdown with this abusive partner. Strange thing is, I find myself thinking about these people with fondness from time to time, but the straw that broke the camel's back is the condoning and the acceptance of this rape of human rights, and also the shaming of anyone who is opposed to this rape. I will not be told what to do. I will not be told what is essential to me, and I will not be told to pray, especially by someone who I have not seen praying before. I believe that when enough people come together around an idea and they reinforce this idea over and over again with words or prayer or meditation, energy is focused on that idea, and it builds up and washes over into or manifests in the material world. It's the law of attraction. And when you commit your focus to a lie, you are serving that lie, and you're giving that lie life. You're giving life to that lie. And that is why I am choosing my tribesmen carefully. And we are leaving for the desert. And you will miss us once we're gone, because you'll be stuck in your syringe-induced reality, an echo chamber where everyone around you agrees with everything you say. And you will find yourself in circles where you all have the same ideas about life, you all have the same quality of health, and you will work for hours and hours, and you'll go home tired, and you'll sit in front of a series that was produced by people who also agree with you, and then you will go back the next day to work to discuss this series with the others that agree with you, and you will all come to an agreement about the series. And one night, you will wake up, and you will search for another shot of your drug. You will search frantically, and you will try and order online because the old fix just doesn't do it anymore. And you will look out your window over to that desert, and you will see a bright light, and you will realize it is the column